All right. Welcome, guys. It's Elijah, founder of Entrepreneurs of Iowa. With me today is a series of different entrepreneurs with various backgrounds talking about mindset. We're going to talk about fear. We're going to talk about failure. We're going to talk about the pain of starting as an entrepreneur and growing and scaling. And I think a lot of you would agree with me that it doesn't really get easier. I think your tolerance builds and you get stronger. And we always do have pain and we always do have various failures, and I look forward to getting into it. So I'll start with my left here. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them who you are and what you do. Yeah.
So I'm Jesse Brauning. I am a video production guy, but I have about a 15-year career of starting businesses, let's say doing video production. Right out of college, I started a company in Northwest Iowa called Paragon Videography. Was doing weddings, events, corporate stuff. And for about 6 years, I did that until I kind of had worked with every business in the area. And I was like, I gotta set my sights higher. And then I worked for an ad agency for a while. I went back to freelance. And most recently, I'm partnering with my brother-in-law here in Charles City, Iowa. We're working on scaling his media company into something that's really going to be serving the whole area.
That's awesome. And what's the name of that media company?
That's Marathon Media.
Marathon Media. Okay, over in Charles City, Iowa.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome. Anthony, you gonna go?
Yep. My name's Anthony Iovine. I'm one of the partners at Entrepreneurs of Iowa. I got my start a little late. Actually dropped out of college to start a business. I have a background in marketing. I ran a full-service marketing agency for almost just about 4 years and stopped that, which is a good thing to pursue Entrepreneurs of Iowa. It was one of the best decisions that I think I've ever made in my entire life. I say that all the time. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. Obviously, you know what we're doing with Entrepreneurs of Iowa, building relationships, helping keep people accountable, and trying to make Iowa the best place to do business in, because it's rough. If you haven't figured it out already, it's tough. It can be hard. It can be really hard. It's it's amazing to be there, be a genuine, real person for other people, to help other entrepreneurs. Yeah.
So I'm Brent Hendricks. I live here in Webster City. I've got a pretty broad background. I went to chef school, opened a restaurant, closed a restaurant, was a welder, heavy industrial sales. It's the common denominator in all of that is me. And in that, a lot of lessons learned. Inventor, yeah. Invented a pump. Yeah, hydraulic pump. So there's a lot of challenges that are confronted with that. I'll say, we were having a conversation earlier. The point becomes fear is a gift, if you'll look at it that way. The gift that I got was that it revealed all of my insecurities. And then I had to go confront them. So if you'll look at it as something to embrace instead of run from, it'll teach you. Otherwise, it'll drive you into the woods.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, thank you for being here. Awesome. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is JJ Hardy. I have an interesting background. I served in the military for a long time, 18 years. I moved on from there to work a little while in civilian workforce. And then I started a business doing leadership, coaching, consulting, and then I do workshop teaching as well. And I kind of did that because I saw that common thing that most people see. And that's that, when they have this high performer working for them, they tend to promote them into a leadership position without giving them so much as a, hey, good job. Now here's your team. This is what we expect from you. Now go out and do it.
Yeah.
And really having that team, there are a lot of skills that need to be taught there, because leadership is not necessarily inherent. Some people have qualities, but leadership development is a skill that should be taught. And so I've been out there doing that for about 3.5 years.
Jump in and start with that right there, because entrepreneurship, to be an entrepreneur, you really are, you have this idea, right? And you want to get started. And you want to, maybe it's open that restaurant, start your startup, build your app, and you really do have to become a leader, right? I think a lot of people, they're afraid. That's a big scary part, right? When you start having a team underneath you, And a lot of times us entrepreneurs, it's not like we were, I don't know, maybe we just wanted to do our passion. And so we weren't necessarily a leader when we started. And so what would you say to that? I'm afraid to become a leader. I have a fear of hiring my first employees, starting right there. Like what would be your advice for entrepreneurs? 'Cause I know you work a lot of times with these management, employees, people building into being a leader. But for an entrepreneur, I guess, what does that look like? What would you say to them?
Really, there's an acronym for fear. It's called false evidence appearing real. And oftentimes we tell ourselves a lot of things that are not true just because we're nervous about doing the right thing. And entrepreneurship, we're very excited about doing this wonderful thing that we're passionate about. But when it comes to that, having to lead other people and get their buy-in and do all these other things that are really out as part of your business, that's not always the easiest thing to do. So right off the jump, I would say that people need to trust their gut and they need to wipe out that mental garbage that they're telling themselves and just go out there and try to do the right thing. But then invest in yourself, learn the skills that you need once you start getting a little bit of success, and make sure that you're honing in on those skills, because if your business is important, you're going to eventually have to learn how to not just invest in yourself, but invest in your people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's a component, if you don't mind,
Yeah, go.
which deals with, exactly what you're talking about, but there's a step beneath that, which is to check your ego, because your ego is going to tell you that you've got this. And then your ego is going to get you in trouble and it's going to bury you. So if you don't have a posse, if you don't have a crew that can speak into your life and tell you no, you're going to run right into the tree. And it's important because the ego is in front of getting a posse. So it matters a lot, and it's a soft skill that it's not on the list of I need this form and I need this thing, I need this bank account. Yeah, you need all that, but you need a posse that can tell you no with authority, and then you can confront back why it's right. Maybe they don't have the vision, and you do, but you need at least to have that conversation.
Agreed. And actually, there's more to it than that. I think what you're saying is 100% true. But what a lot of companies don't do, especially when they have a startup, is they don't identify their values and what they think is super, super important. And so when they hire people that have experience that they need. But if those people don't understand your values and understand how you want those things to be carried out in your business, then you tend to have the wrong people. And so you really got to hire, especially those new people, those first people in your company. You have to hire the right people that you can work with. I mean, you can't work with everybody. And then as you move forward, you turn that into a culture thing. And as you scale your company, then once you have those values identified, it's going to make it easier to scale and scale and scale. But I'll be quiet over here because I'm just on the screen and you guys can have some conversation.
No, that's great.
You're great.
I'm actually gonna let's take a step back to starting. I'm gonna start with Jesse here. Yeah, so you've done quite a few different things.
Sure.
And when you're doing something new, like what goes on in your head that can really help you? And some of our viewers who have that idea, or they're just starting, they're just going through it. And, they might be in an environment where their friends, their family, their coworkers are saying, you're crazy. What are you doing? It might not work. And I'm not saying every idea is a good idea, but because definitely isn't. We've all been there. We've done things that don't work out. But what would you say to that person that's starting? What advice would you give them? And maybe that person's your younger self. But what would you say?
Interesting. I think the thing I would say would be, if everybody in your circle is saying you're crazy, you might want to. But here's the reason. It's because, kind of tying into what we were talking about before, the keyword there is trust, right? And I think trust is kind of the antidote to that fear element, where if you're feeling unsure about a big decision you're going to make, the first thing I do is I go to the people I trust and I say, what do you guys think? Right? Because that kind of feedback is going to give me either more confidence to get through the thing that I'm worried about, or they're going to steer me away from it and maybe avert a disaster. So not to say that, if the people around you are telling you, I'm not sure that that's going out on a limb, that you should always just, go the safe route. Sometimes you have to say, actually, I feel a lot of passion for this. I'm going to take the risk. But, hopefully there's somebody in your circle, in your posse, that's going to back you up. And I would look for the people who are going to back you up when you're going to go out and take a big risk, and hold on to those people, because they're going to be an important support structure for you in doing that.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I mean, I know we were talking earlier backstage just about some of the things you've done, and some things worked out really well, some things didn't work out well at all, and that's just true of all of us. What would you say to what Jesse's saying right there? Okay, when you're doing those things that didn't work out well, I guess, do you wish you would have listened to other people? Was there, maybe we jump into, because, sometimes I know we say it's fear, but maybe it's, I've done things where maybe it wasn't the right thing to do. Like you're saying, like everyone told me it wasn't going to work out, but maybe that's my ego talking. And it's like, hey, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm not listening to conventional wisdom. I'm listening to advice.
There's a couple of points to that.
Yeah.
One of them is, in that posse, someone sane walking you through the numbers with a curious mind. How do you get to this income if you've only got this gross revenue? And if you want this gross revenue, how many widgets do you have to sell to get that gross revenue? And sometimes you just have to put it on a spreadsheet and look at it. Now, the second part of that is that can all be fine and it can all work on paper, and then it crashes, right? And the point of that becomes roll with the bounce, because this isn't final. You can start over. It's going to suck. You're going to limp. And embrace the limp, because as you walk out of that crash, you're going to have a story to tell, and you're going to be able to engage. And if you have a positive, beneficial group aspect that says, yeah, man, that's going to suck, people will enjoy being around you and listening to your story. If all it is those people and blame and victimhood, you're going to lose your friends. So embrace the suck, lean into it, recognize that there are life lessons I'm learning here. And the best way to do that is to tell you how I got this scar.
Take accountability for it, right?
Take it, absolutely. Lean into it.
Yeah, every decision I make, it's my decision, and I'm taking accountability. I'm taking ownership of it. If I fail, that's a lesson learned. That's going to make me stronger, better, and the next thing might just work out.
Yeah, and you can't know where the next journey begins until you've landed at the bottom of the hill and you have to start walking. And you go, well, I wouldn't have been there if I hadn't been here. And embrace that as an opportunity rather than I failed, my uncle's going to hate me or whatever. I mean, because now we're back to ego. Back to somebody's point about the first hire, the fewer employees, the more impact each of them have. And so hiring your friend instead of the better person, that skill set might be cheaper, might be fun, but later on it's gonna collapse on you.
There's a dichotomy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you're a bit of an expert on that. Why don't you jump in there? Yeah.
Well, so there's a bit of a dichotomy of something that needs to be balanced here, because you have these trusted confidants that are going to tell you what you don't necessarily want to hear and what you need to hear. But then you're going to have all of these people in your network that are they don't know anything other than going to work a 9 to 5. And that's what their whole life is. That's what their parents' life has been. That's what their grandparents' life has been. And so some of these people, out of their own fear, because that's what we're talking about here, are going to tell you that this is just a horrible idea because of that risk. So there are going to be people that are genuinely giving you advice based off of, what they think the market can handle, which is what I think you were talking about. But then there are going to be those other people that are, anytime you talk about starting a business, they're going to clam up inside like, oh my gosh, that's a horrible idea. So you really have to balance that. Unfortunately, some of your closest friends and family might be the absolute worst judges of that. And you might need to make some friends that are out in the business world, whether they're working at a high level doing sales or something like that, or have a business themselves, so that you can get that vantage point into your idea that is actually based off of whether that business idea will work, not just claiming up because they're like, oh my gosh, starting a business is so much work, sort of a thing.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there on that because doing Entrepreneurs of Iowa, I get to meet with every week dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs. And the number one thing I get from entrepreneurs, specifically the ones that join our group, is how that they don't have a network and how lonely they feel. And it's interesting. And it doesn't matter. You know, we have entrepreneurs who just starting out, but even ones who have multiple locations, 30 plus employees. And he said, I just want people that I can ask some questions. You know, there's still scary things that they have to do. Yeah, I have 30 employees. I got multiple locations. We're doing really well. But I got this big bank meeting and I've never done that specific type of meeting before. And I really like what you said there because it's so important that we're not just asking random people, but people with experience. But that is the number one thing I've gotten is I'm lonely. I want connection and collaboration with other people who just get it. And I feel like I found my people. Yeah. Anthony, you're going to say something?
Yeah, no, I mean, just elaborating on that. Obviously, I've had the exact same experience. You'd be shocked at how many people say the exact same thing. And the hardest part about it is, you can't ask, your wife or your husband for a lot of, unless they're an entrepreneur, because I say this all the time, that people who get it, and the people who don't. And especially in Iowa, there are just so few places available where they can be a resource for you. Like you can ask the tough questions to people who aren't going to, just try to please you, but who also aren't going to let your own ego get in the way of it. That's happened. I've talked to so many people where they have like this great idea and things are going very well. And then they tell me like, hey, I want to do this thing. And then I hear it. And in my mind, I'm like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard.
I want to build this new app.
So that's like a whole other thing is like the Matrix, like they chase the woman in the red dress, right? There's always, the shiny object, like, oh, what's that? People get distracted chasing these rabbit trails. And listen, could it work? Sure. Of course, anything can work. The thing people are missing is you are what makes it work. That's what everyone misses. And the worst part is most people, especially in Iowa, they don't have somebody like say me or you or anyone else who can look at that, take it at face value and say, hey, dude, this is what I've told this multiple times. I'm like, hey, dude, that is the worst thing you could do. That will ruin your business. Genuinely, I say that like that. No, that's the worst decision you could make. I'm like, why don't you just do this instead? And then it clicks and they're like, oh, wait, you're totally right.
And they do that with us. They do that with us.
All the time, every day I talk to somebody.
The takeaway from that is plus experience says take the chance to go ask someone.
Yeah.
Find a banker, find a business person. Don't be afraid of walking into that office and saying, I'd like to set up a meeting with the owner and engage that, because the response that you're doing, the inverse of that is, I would like to speak about my successes or my failures that turned into successes or whatever it is, the struggles I had when my kid was sick, all of that, because what you're hearing is the inverse of another unmet need. And what I mean by that is, if they're looking for people that we could have spoken to, it's because they want to speak. And so go ask, go embrace that, go engage that, and show some agency and some initiative on your own that says, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, this is the role. Go do it and be of good courage.
Oh my gosh, you are my favorite person right now. I think
I knew you guys would get along. I knew it.
A lot of people get stuck in. And Anthony and I talked about this last night. We talked about this analysis paralysis, where they take their idea and they think about it, and then they plan it, and then they want to start making documents and processes, and they want to do all of these things, and then 6 months, 8 months, a year down the line, they're still really nervous about starting this because they want everything to be perfect. Well, at the end of the day, what do you have to do? Well, you just have to go out and do it. None of the stuff you're building is even going to matter if you don't go out and test it. Why are you? What's that?
Let me touch that this way. 15 years I was a 1099 sales contractor, right? People look at me and they go, You have no guarantee. You got to pay your own bills. You got to buy your own gas. You got to drive 3 states. And I'm like, okay, here's what the difference is. I stopped lying to myself about security. I go to a Caterpillar and that guy's like, I've been here for 35 years. I go, how many times have you been laid off? And you go, you think you've got security, but they can close the frickin' building. You don't have security. You lied to yourself. I at least am honest about, there's no net and I'm running fast. And you go, let's understand what the inhibition you're talking about 6 months or 8 months later, do something. It's like, come on, just go.
Yep. Well, they're comfortable
Being
collecting that
uncomfortable.
paycheck weekly or bi-weekly or monthly. And so the idea that they're going to have to separate from that and go risk not having that paycheck.
It's legit.
And you're right. Anybody could get laid off. You're absolutely right. But when they go and get another job, they don't have to worry about making that sale because they're just going to grind and collect that paycheck. So this whole thing that we're talking about, there's a lot of people that just tell themselves that they can't do it. It's called imposter syndrome. I'm sure all of us in this room know what that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But of course, oftentimes high performers in business and entrepreneurs have imposter syndrome because we're telling ourselves all of these things that are not true because we're afraid of what the outcome may be. Well, you don't know what the outcome's going to be until you go out there and you grab yourself by your pants and do it. If you don't just if you don't go out there and try things, it's never going to happen. And if you don't talk to that banker, like what you were saying, or go out there and do your market research and actually get out there to see if your idea is even going to be viable and maybe even make a sale along the way, then how are you going to even know? You're always going to fail if you don't try. But you don't know if you don't know what the likelihood is of success if you just go out there and give it your best shot.
I think a lot of us are entrepreneurs because we want to hold that security, that our life in our hands, right? And not give it away to somebody who, it's on them whether we keep that security or don't. And I have a little bit of experience with that myself. I traded my first company for that security. Wanted that steady paycheck. So I literally sold my company to a bigger company that just basically absorbed me to create a video department inside their digital agency. And it was great for a few years, right? Because I had that security and I had opportunities to work with bigger clients. But eventually I was like, I really miss holding my own drive, my opportunities, the fruit of my labor, the profit of it, just the straight up the money in my hands instead of, letting it go to the owner of the business. I'm like, why don't I own this business? Why don't I own my business again? And so eventually with that entrepreneur inside me, I said, I've got to go do it on my own again. And after a few years I did, because I think some of us, we just kind of have to, right?
It's in there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The idea of having to submit paperwork to be able to go take time off.
Exactly.
It almost makes me want to throw up.
It was rough.
That's right. I wanted to touch on something you're talking about with almost like paralysis with entrepreneurs, because I see that all the time, especially, and I'm sure you can relate a lot. I'm sure all of you can relate. But doing my marketing agency work, I would meet entrepreneurs almost every single month that would come to me and they were almost asking me, they say, hey, I need a marketing consultation. I'm interested in your marketing services. And I say, okay, let's meet. And we meet, and about 10 minutes in, I realized they're not asking for marketing services. They're almost asking me to run their business. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they're entrepreneurs who they're pre LLC, right? They just got the idea and they want someone like, hey, I've got this awesome idea. I'll give you 20% of the company. Everything you sell, I'll give you this much. Oftentimes it's in that sales category and it's in that marketing category. It's the category where people are scared to put themselves out there and talk in front of a camera, right? And go online or make an ad or door knock or whatever it is. And they want someone else to do that for them. So what would you guys say? Like, how would you recommend overcoming that fear, that paralysis? Because I know we've all been there where we're in a situation where we almost wish that someone else would do it, would be there to do it for us, but that's not true. And I've seen so many entrepreneurs stuck at that stage where they're constantly just waiting for, I'm looking for a co-founder. I don't know if you guys have heard that before. I'm looking for a co-founder who's going to handle my sales. And
This way. And Malcolm Gladwell's an author I appreciate a lot. In one of his books, he talks about connectors, mavens, and salesmen. Now, you get to be two. You're never three. So the connector knows people, the maven knows product or process, and the salesman is the engager that takes the connection to the value proposition that ends in a sale. Figure out which two or one you are. Because if you're not the salesman, you're going to suck at it. Now, maybe that's what you have to do to begin with, but the first hire then becomes another salesman.
you can't just be the idea person.
You can't just be
You
the
can't
idea.
just be, hey, this is my idea.
Yeah.
I need everyone else to do it. You gotta be one of those three. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're not the maven that knows this product start to finish, maybe you're a connector who knows there's a need in the market. That's fine, but you got to have a salesman. And if that's not your personality, just own that. That's clear back to ego again. Because if you lie to yourself, you're going to pretend that you're the best salesman on the team. And then you're going to wonder why everyone else needs micromanaged. It sucks. And entrepreneurs hate micromanagement, but here we are.
What was that book?
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, what was that book that you just talked about?
Which of his many?
Yeah, he's got 5. I believe it's The Tipping Point.
Sorry, that just sounds interesting. I like to listen to audiobooks, and so that's one that I might have to sit down and listen to while I'm working one morning.
Yeah.
All of his are good. Simon Sinek's another one that it begins with why. Leaders eat last, that sort of stuff. At its root, it's about be curious. If you can't be curious about how you failed, if you can't be curious about what you know that I could learn, if you can't be curious about going to the banker and going, well, I've never done this before. If you can't be curious, that reveals an inhibition in you that you need to go confront.
Yeah, and I like that. I really want to take away all the excuses. I mean, when I'm meeting with someone who's brand new, that's really one of my biggest goals. I want to take away the excuses of being able to at least take those first steps, because almost every time, and I'm sure you know this too, just meeting with people with your marketing background, they almost have this, like, I need to have this website, and then this website needs to be this way, and it costs $10,000, this about us video just to get started. And so trying to take away all those excuses of just start, begin. And that's why I like that. Go talk to a banker, right? Join your chamber, join a different group, right? Meet with other entrepreneurs that have been there, done that. And just honestly, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but I wish that when I wanted to start, I would have just done it instead of just spending a couple years thinking about it, planning things. And I don't know if you'd want to jump in there.
Yeah. I feel like I've been generally in my career the guy who has just done it. Like, I'm a very impulsive person, so I like, if I get an idea, boom, I'm off. I'm doing it. I started my company right out of college. I had a friend who helped me out a little bit with a little cash to get started, and I just hit the ground running. And I am not the sales guy. I've spent a lot of my career trying to teach myself how to be that connections guy, that sales guy, to limited success. And that's one of the reasons I'm really happy I am where I am right now, is because I have a team. My team has that business operation and some of that sales skill, and that's huge. But, getting there isn't easy. Like, especially if you're the solopreneur kind of person, you don't have the money to just hire a full-time business operations person or a full-time salesman necessarily. So it can be tricky, but getting out there and getting started absolutely is necessary to getting to the end goal. Right? You can sit there and twiddle your thumbs about an idea forever.
Yeah, I just don't like when those excuses mask that fear. I don't like it because they're almost lying to you when you're meeting with them. They're almost saying, this is the reason why I haven't been able to I've been working on this for 3 years and I haven't been able to begin because I haven't found someone to do this or this. And what they're really, it's a lie. Like, they're even lying to the person consulting them. Is, no, you really didn't start because you're afraid, right? You didn't want to, and you're in this entrepreneur type stage. I think it's so important that you just address it. It's like, hey, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think you could just, you don't need a professional website. I've told, when I was doing professional web design, I say, listen, go on Wix. I'll buy it for you. It's $20. We'll set it up, put your name in. There you go. Now you have a website. Now what's the next step in the business? And, taking away those excuses.
I think an interesting part we haven't talked about is financing.
Oh, yeah.
And what I mean by that is when I invented my pump and we're looking to, okay, fine, now I need $500,000. Who do I go to do that? Well, there's a finance broker guy. Who knew that was a job? And because he's a finance broker guy, we're sitting there and we're like, some people in his orbit, he's a connector, right? Some people in his orbit are, I want back of the napkin. And other people are like, I need prototype. And those aren't the same people either. And so you have to know that in the first place, there is a broker guy that knows people that's connected to high finance, that they've got $12 million sitting in a bank someplace they need to put to action. And you go, okay, well, I don't know that guy with $12 million that needs some action, but I'll take it. And then we found out by the time we get done with this, we're not even going to be an accredited investor. I didn't know what one was. Well, you have to have this much money in liquid capital. And I'm like, we're starting this business and we're going to get kicked out because we can't even qualify. How does that work? Anyway, school's open, boys. And that's what it was. And you go, okay. So anyway, go ahead, speak to it.
No, I was just chuckling because you're right. You start going down these rabbit holes. I'm working with a friend of mine on another business right now, and we're dealing with getting an investor and building a product and everything else as well. And all the things that you're going through right now, once we found an investor, it's until that money is locked down, you would be surprised how many people won't even talk to you. Right. So they will kind of push you off, and everyone has a nickname for money. And I've learned that too, which is kind of funny. When it comes to financing, you can do the SBA stuff if you've been in business long enough and you have an idea. But if you can't get it that way, I like that there's these different brokers and stuff like that you can talk to, because there are more creative ways to finance your business. There are these crowdfunding. There are places where you can go and do a pitch and get an investor that way. You could talk to a broker. You could talk to all kinds of people. And I just went through all of that. And finally, we found an investor. But that is not an easy process. No. And so just like anything else, and back to Elijah's point, you got to figure out, once you have this idea, whatever it is, you map it out, you figure out everything that needs to be done, and you go in the direction that you need to go. And guess what? It's just like driving to the store or going to work every day. You have to get there. You might get a flat tire on the way. Okay. You fix whatever situation comes up along the way, but you don't forget that you got to go to the store or you got to get to work. And if you approach starting a business that way, then all of these speed bumps are going to come, but you don't stop headed in the direction that you need to go. You need funding. You don't stop at the I need funding. You don't stop at the first no. You don't stop at the first.
That's right.
I mean, my goodness, because I've been told no for this business idea to build this software and go out and start the business. Oh my God. The idea of how many times I've been told no by different people to get the funding, I'm not even going to say it because it's embarrassing. Not everybody is going to jive with your idea. And so if you're wanting to go out there and do this thing, you've done your market research and people need this thing, the widget, the business idea, the leadership coaching, or whatever the case may be, well, then you keep on talking to people until they hire you. Keep on talking to investors, or not investors, but different people. You just don't stop until you have the success that you're looking for, till you can hire that salesperson, till you can hire that operations team. And you were talking about excuses. We're going to have them all the time. It's how we respond to those excuses that really, really matter.
I like that.
Yeah. To add to that, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was the Greek philosopher Socrates who said, we suffer the most in our own imagination. It's something I've seen personally from all the businesses I met with through Entrepreneurs of Iowa and marketing work is, I don't know if this is the proper term. If not, I'm coining it. It's a knowledge check. There are so many things that they don't even know. It's an unknown unknown. They don't know that they don't know it. Like, for example, maybe you don't know that there are these business funding opportunities that are available. Maybe there are local resources and people that you can talk to and meet with at any time. But if you're not aware of it, I mean, you're kind of dead in the water. There's almost nothing that you could do unless you're aware of it. And what I'm getting at here is that you can't become aware of those things unless you take some kind of action that can put you on a path where you can become aware of it. And there's so many ways you can do that. It can be something as simple, this is like the brute force way of doing it, where you just do it and then fail and then work and then fail and then work and then fail again. And you learn from your own mistakes. And I'm like, hey, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's alternative paths, like, say, talking with somebody, like you, like if someone has a, question, maybe they're looking to get started in, similar industry. It's like, well, if they're at ground zero, why couldn't they talk to you? It's that simple. So many people, at least in my experience, there's so many people are almost unwilling to put their ego aside and just ask questions. I say this all the time. Maybe to a fault. I'm very curious. I was always the kid growing up where I asked, hey, why? Why is that? Like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, why don't you know? It's like, why does this thing work the way it does? Listen, maybe it's embarrassing. I think entrepreneurs need to have that mindset of asking questions. It can be that simple. I would rather look stupid 100 times in front of, whomever person is at a higher level than me. But then I get there. I get there faster than people who maybe are trying to brute force, their way through trial and error. And that's something, like I said, it's not a lot of people do it. Not many people are willing to ask
Almost
questions and
as
look
if
stupid.
knowledge takes away some of that fear, right? Like
Yeah.
even just knowing, like, look at us in this room, right? All of us have done different things, and some of those things have been scary, but we've all started things, right? And we've all had various levels of success doing those things. And so when you can talk with people and get to know their story, how they started, you went through trials, I've been through trials, you've been through trials, and you can know that, oh, wow, this is just a part of the process. So I'm going through hard right now. I'm trying to get that funding. I'm trying to build the next stage, get the next client, but that's just normal, right? And so that kind of goes into the pain part of what we've been talking about. It's like, it's painful to grow and to improve, but you don't need to be afraid of it.
Suck. That's right.
I love that. What were you talking about last night?
Well, at WD-40, and we make jokes about it for a reason, but it's the 40th version. Come on. Let's own the fact that, there's a journey here, and we're going to learn things and meet people on the journey that some are very valuable.
Well, let's get some closing thoughts. We're almost out of time here. Let's start the opposite way. But, we have got a wide variety of entrepreneurs. I think before this panel, there were, over 10,000 viewers in total for all of the lives we've been doing so far today. We've got a lot more panels left. So there's a lot of different types of entrepreneurs watching this, right? People just starting, small business owners, startup founders, CEOs and executives at even bigger companies. What's one thing that you'd want to share with them, like a takeaway that they could take from just our discussion here, from your experience, and just some advice you'd want to leave them with?
So does that mean we're starting with me?
Yeah, let's start with you.
Okay, sounds good. So first of all, you should always start with why. You're starting a business for a specific reason. You're solving a specific problem, making a specific widget that everyone needs. That's where you need to start. I've been executing military operations all over the world. This isn't just in business. This is in when you're working for somebody, everything. You can plan and plan and plan anything, but when it comes time for execution, it's going to be ugly and it's going to be messy. Use your why as that internal motivating factor to keep pushing through all of the heartbreak and mistakes and all the, just as Anthony said, looking a little bit stupid, because it's all going to happen. Yeah, but I mean, why are you doing it? Yeah. Let that continue to propel you through your journey. And before you quit, make sure that you tried everything and you talk to so many people before you give up on it, because you're not actually giving up on a business idea. If it gets too hard, just remember this: you're actually giving up on yourself, and that's the one person you should never give up on.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess my takeaway is be nimble and be responsive to the stimuli that comes. No might be real, but try again. Be curious, be flexible, and don't take it so personal. Go ahead and you pull off in the cul-de-sac of it sucks and I need to cry. You will come back out of that cul-de-sac different, but you have to come back out of the cul-de-sac.
Jesse?
Yeah. So, I mean, you said be curious. I think my takeaway is listen, which is it ties right into that. Listen to people you trust, listen to experts, and listen to your fear and let it teach you something. Let it either propel you forward or hold you back from mistakes. But just really listen to all that information that's coming at you.
Well, thanks, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us online. Really appreciate
Yeah.
it.